welcome to this episode where we're going to address fuel issues and coolant issues.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Hello, babies. What happens when they leave us alone?
We accomplish. That's what happens.
We cut stuff apart.
Yeah, we cut shit apart. So we have cut out our spot for our fuel lines and our radiator lines. FD rulebook states that you can modify the floorboard to clear your fuel lines, which if you know anything about drifting, they be board sliding across stuff.
Yeah.
So if you look at this, this is plenty deep enough here for some fuel lines.
Yeah, if you look over this way, you can see how the floorboard versus like the lowest point of the car, and then back here,
It dives to nothing.
our notch goes to absolutely nothing. So we have 1.5 inch thick aluminum lines that would then hang 1.5 inches below the lowest point of our chassis, which is not what we love to see. So that little notch is going to kick us up that little bit and allow us to run our coolant lines and our fuel lines. The middle portion of that will all be hardline, which we're hyped about.
Yeah.
Then we're going to find happy locations for the bottom of our battery tray.
We're gonna cut out more of this, by the way.
Yeah, we're going to cut more of
I
that.
just couldn't see it, and I didn't want to get burnt laying under the car while I was cutting this out, because I built the battery box and then I was going to cut the rest of this out. So now that we have a lift, I can cut the rest of this out, and then we're going to take and put our bulkheads.
Yeah, bulkheads for our fuel and coolant will go through the back of this plate because our battery only goes up to like here because it's small and awesome. Yeah.
It's also blocked off on the top part with all of our block off plates.
And I got to find a happy little place in here to mount a fuel filter, but we'll cross that bridge.
Fuel
when we get there.
filter, E85 sensor, flex fuel sensor, and then
That's gonna be up
also
front. I could put the fuel
also the
filter all the
water
way back
pump.
yonder. I could put the fuel filter anyway. Room for activities.
I like our battery box like matches. We did the same thing. We cut out this side and our battery box just kind of bumps
Yeah,
down
they're
too.
both fancy and level at their bases.
So we have got our tunnel all cut out, shaved, and in proper fashion, bead rolled. You know, we can't just leave nothing flat in here. This guy scoots over the top of the floorboard a little bit. Overlap. Yeah. Beauteous Maximus. And that'll hide our fuel lines and our radiator lines. And still plenty of room to be able to bolt in your seat and everything.
As you can see, we do have our trough in place. Plenty of clearance for our 1.5 inch tube. So we wanted something that was going to space the tubes out because we want to keep our hot water and cold water running slightly separated, and we wanted a source to mount them to the car, and also something so they don't twist while we put the fittings on. So little brackets, basically just a quarter of a pipe. They go halfway down the pipe and they space the pipe off of the floorboard a little bit, so you know.
So we'll rub against there and add more heat to the seat.
So yeah, Crickett gonna weld these bad boys. We can mount these tubes and we can figure out our fuelie lines.
Hey, hello again. We are working on our gas lines now that we have our radiator lines, our coolant lines bolted in and in a spot where we like them. So we were able to bend our fuel lines to run in sequence with them, but also far enough away from them that the radiant heat from it won't heat up our gasoline on its way to the motor.
So we learned, you do not like hot fuel. Hot fuel does not help.
But we have them all bent. Chris is making me some sweet little tabs for them. So I'm just lining it up, getting ready to drill it. And then we can mount these up and then figure out what we want to do on the back. We know we want to bend them up, but we also want them to not crisscross and look bad. So,
Yeah, we don't like crossed lines around here.
yeah, no. Mount this up into place, and then we can look back here and figure out how exactly we're going to run these hard lines. We have some ideas. We also have to mount our water pump, and we have some fuel filters, and what else? A E85.
Flex fuel sensor, that's going to be up here in the engine bay somewhere.
Oh, cool.
Just because it's part of the engine harness. I don't want to have to extend it to run all the way to the rear of the car.
Makes sense.
Yeah, fuel filter, we got a pretty good location, but we're just waiting still for our vibrant stuff to show up. Then we can actually cut things down to the lengths they need to be, just so we know the height of our fittings and the bulkheads and all those types of stuff.
So there's great news. Our WISE-Fab came in today. So I just finished doing the fuel lines, got those all welded up to our brackets and to themselves so they can't twist or bend or do anything. They come out perfect spot for our flex fuel sensor. That's gonna be perfect. I'm actually gonna cut this farther down and weld on our AN fittings here. And we'll do female to female to lock these in. So this one will go here. Sorry. That one will go there, and then that one is just going with the fuel filter coming from the line. So this is the return side. And that's all set over here. We're gonna weld on AN fittings here as well, and then we can do whatever we want to go up in here and route whatever Chris decides he wants to do. I cut out the rest of this box. We have to plate these as well, but I think I might take and cut this a little bit farther at an angle there, just so I can allow my next plate to be angled in, and then it would give us spots for 2 8AN fittings for our bulkheads. And if you look through there, booyaka, that's our fuel cell. I can't focus on it because I'm not Joel, but right there, the fuel cell. Chris is very excited right now.
So I removed the rear subframe out of the car again because WiseFab came in. So this is the rear grip kit for the F chassis, and their grip kit now actually will accommodate a divorced setup. Where the previous one you had to run a true coilover in the rear, and the divorced setup is just easier for us to set up our shock travel, as well as, you know, if we ever need to change springs or anything like that at the track, it's simply just unbolting it instead of having to disassemble an entire coilover.
He just answered one of our questions of the week. Bam!
What was the question of the week?
Why are you guys running a divorce setup versus a true coilover setup? I thought true coilover was better dynamic.
In terms of like simplicity, it is, but in terms of like, you know, being able to set things up individually, it's much easier to work with these guys. Look at these new arms are dope. They're not just little straight arms with times in them anymore.
So with these, you can add those little spring spacers or whatever, make it a little stiffer on one side than the other.
One side or the other, and also having a different shock ratio. When you're coilover, your spring is mounted to your shock, and then the shock is mounted to the knuckle. You're basically working with a 1-to-1 ratio. So you have more of an effect when you change spring rates on a divorce setup because you have a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every inch that your knuckle moves, your spring is only actually moving a half an inch.
Gotcha. Hers is where it would connect on the true coilover, which would move a whole...
1 inch is 1 inch, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Look at those. Nice job, WiseFab.
Yeah.
Real classy.
Boys over at WiseFab are doing a great job. Yeah, so these are press-in style bearings like we did on the E92. Whereas
Okay, and the
F80
F80 are
stuff are the
bolt-in?
4-bolt, and I really like the bolt-on bearings, personally.
Yeah, because you don't have to press them in.
I really wish they would have just put those on there, but, you know, get what you get.
If they come pressing, I send it back. It's an F30, so it's getting F30 things. I also bet the F80 shock pickup points are different, right?
Yeah, there's a few little differences in the rear suspension geometry. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know some of the pickup points and stuff are different.
So that's most likely
a separate kit for the F30 and the F80 subframes.
That's most likely why they have the press-in bearings on this versus the other ones.
Right.
Because all of the other stuff fits on this style spindle.
Well, look, they even give you provisions for a wheel speed sensor if you want it.
I kind of like to know how fast I'm going. Not that it matters in drifting, you're really only knowing what wheel speed you're going, not how fast you're actually going.
You are entering at the top of third gear. That's what you get.
Yes.
Well, we have assembled all of the goods. We got our BCs and everything put in, swapped over our old top hats. These ones actually had good bushings in them. The ones in the E92 were a little bit choppy. So we are gonna fit up everything that we can for now, just to kind of get the car as a roller. We're gonna find some wheels hopefully to put on it so we can weigh the car in its current position. Still missing our diff, obviously. But once we get all that put in place, then at least we have an idea of what our baseline weight is and how much we can still add to the car or don't want to add to the car. So if we're creeping up on our worried weight, which is we want to be around 2,750 because we want to be 2,900 with the boss man in it. I'm just assuming around 150 pounds. I don't really know how much he weighs.
about 150.
I'd say about
165.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can get a baseline to see what it weighs, but we figured out that this rear grip kit does not use the F80 style wheel bearings that actually have the 4 bolts that bolt in. These are the press-in type, and we only had the F80 type. So, I am waiting on an answer from our boy Wout to tell me what wheel bearing I'm supposed to use, because apparently the website says 85 millimeters. The ones I'm finding are 84 millimeters, which I think was just a typo because the next size down is like 74 millimeters. So we're going to try it. But either way, we have the tool to where we can press these in while it's in the car, so we don't have to worry about taking the knuckle back out. Not that we're not dropping the whole rear subframe again anyway. But yeah, we're going to plop this bad boy in here because I want to.
Yeah. Hi, in true fashion, me and Chris had to put this in together so we didn't get to film it, but you've seen the subframe go in, it's in. What we want to show you is the travel of the WiseFab.
We'll actually set our bump stop once we actually have our wheels and everything fitted, but yeah, look at that. Ooh, yeah, she's still going.
All the travel.
So we left the springs out so we can set our bump stop heights and everything like that. But, you know, when we weigh the car, we'll just throw the springs in the trunk and see what happens. The thing we've been waiting on for so long.
Not so long. We ordered it maybe a week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but we pretty much cleared out what looks like
Everything.
all of their stock. So we are going to do a random unboxing and just kind of lay everything out on the floor so we can check our itemized list to make sure we got all of the stuff that we ordered, because I know there was some things that were on back order. But that means we can start a lot of the cool stuff, like running all of our coolant lines that we just built the tubes for, our fuel lines, we can put our bulkheads in, we can
Do the cold side of the intercooler.
cold side
piping.
intercooler piping, we can put flanges on there, we can do our clamp adapters, all kinds of good stuff.
We can do all of our, we have the coolers too, right? So we can do our oil cooler, power steering cooler, any of that? No? We have
They haven't
lines
released
for
the
it.
coolers yet. They're not available to the public.
They were teasing us at SEMA? Come on!
Playing with my emotions.
Right? They were so beautiful. I wanted those.
With the
SEMA pies. Bong. Dusty. So now this is off. I can do this one too. Finish this. We can run our lines.
So the fuel oil guys are gonna go from that around there, or from down there to around here, or.
What we're trying to figure out.
Because you were saying the battery box is big enough that I could have some little bulkheads over here.
Yeah, but in retrospect, realizing that our exhaust is going to be running over this way, and I don't know how much clearance we're going to have with the bulkhead and everything like that, and I don't want that to be a problem.
Heat
So,
and fuel. However you want.
Thinking about just plating this to make our bulkheads come out of there.
So
Yeah,
we've been looking
I mean, I can
for a
reach
spot for the fuel filter for how long now?
In like 10 minutes.
Finding the right spot for the vibrant
Component
fuel filter.
locations matter. Because this is one of the things that we're going to service, you know, every couple of rounds we'll take that out and clean out the fuel filter element. And I don't want it to be anything that we have to remove panels or parts of the car for in order to get to the fuel filter. So we are trying to find a place where it is away from heat, away from danger, and we
Looks
can remove
good
it.
and
looks good.
serviceable.
Yeah.
We also need to figure out a mounting solution for it because it didn't come with any mounts.
Yeah, I think they make like a universal mount for it. Like it's just like a insulated rubber thing with like 2 bolts that hold it in place.
So we're working on intercooler stuff now because, you know, we're running out of other stuff to do. And we can do the cold side. I had to cap the intercooler because the outlets on it actually went into where the bash bar went. And we can't have that happening. So I cut the nubs off of that, welded that shut, and now we're deciding the best place to put the outlets on the intercooler. And Chris came up with this sweet little idea of just doing it at an angle up like that. So I'll end up cutting this nice and level so I can put a HD clamp on it, and then we'll do some cool pies that go from here up into there, and the cold side will be done.
Right now we're working on trying to get the contour right, which it's not exactly 90 degrees, and it's also pitched at a slight outward angle. Plus we have the pipe going at a slight outward angle, so kind of just a guess, check, and repeat.
Yeah.
We're getting pretty close though.
We're right there.
I think one more pass of the marker.
Yep.
So probably wondering why we didn't just use a hole saw. Now, the angle that this sits is at like a 10-degree pitch this way, and this being the body of our intercooler where, you know, the air actually passes through. We're worried that if we took the 3-inch hole saw or 2 3/4 whatever and went through it when it did pop through, because obviously these will be the last point it cuts, so the edge of this is going to be all the way in here, and we were very worried about hitting the inside of the intercooler. So didn't take that much longer realistically to just drill all the holes and then have him go through and whiz it. Now he just has to clean that up with the flapper disc, and then he can pop that on and throw a clampy on it.
A lot less scary that way.
A lot less scary.
Now I get to do it again.
Yeah. Well,
But that'll be on next time's episode. This one, you got to see us do all of the piping for the radiator lines, for the gas lines, and do some other stuff. We did some block off plates, the rest of the capping for the back.
We'll fill in all the blanks later on. We're kind of just jumping around as we get parts for this, or we get tired of working on lines, so we jump to intercooler piping, get tired of intercooler piping, we might move back to the back seat and the fill neck. Like, we'll be jumping around on it a little bit, but you know, we'll keep you updated.
Yeah. So like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think about this bad boy.
Babies, do a kick.
Yeah, kick it, babies.
Y'all.
Good enough. That's Pomeranian. That's the only trick she knows.
Food.
Food, yeah. Treats. Oh, wanna go for a ride? Yeah, she likes the ride better.